No, I got sacked.
What did you get sacked for?
The boss was a nightmare. Basically, long story short, I was bad-mouthing him, and then someone was recording it.
Oh no. I'm just going to come straight in. How much is a pair of shoes?
Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. So,
Right, you ready? This is the sound bites.
Dissident's got like a look. We've got like I think you can usually tell when it's dissident content because we've got a particular kind of look. It's very gritty, very dark, grim.
Getting essence of Blade Runner here.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Accidentally, that works really well with construction. So we were doing that with everything.
traditionally shoemaking was very secretive. We know people who'd work in a big workshop, and if there was a technique that someone knew, they'd turn round and hide keep it to themselves.
Yeah. So, right, this week we have got two very different guests from literally either end of the spectrum. We've got Dan from Dissident, and we've got James and Deborah from, how would you pronounce it?
Carreducker.
Carreducker. So I'm going to give you a little brief introduction. So we've got Dan, Dissident, social media marketing agency from Stone, Staffordshire, focusing on high quality video production and content for companies such as Fischer and Tide, but with a twist. You want to stand out from the normal marketing agencies. You have 6 rules, apparently, Dan.
Oh, yeah, my manifesto, which I forgot.
I've looked on the website, the 6 rules. So, do you want me to go through them, or are you going to try and name them?
The only one that I can remember, because it was the only one that I came up with, was be weird, but not for the sake of it.
Be weird, but not for the sake of it, is one of them. Be loads of fun, but not too silly. We've got work to do. Be confident, but not cocky. Nobody likes to show off, as your nan used to say. Be smart, but not stodgy. We don't know everything, we're humble. Be informal, but not sloppy. We talk like normal people, but we're professional. Be helpful, not overbearing. If you're not comfortable with it, it's not a problem. And be an expert, but not bossy. It's your baby. We just want to see it grow. So that's the marketing side of you. And then James and Deborah, I've done a little bit of a deep dive on you. Now, we might be able to go to Nathan, the researcher, who may have got stuff right or wrong.
We'll let you know.
Right, so here we go. Independent bespoke shoemakers and educators based in London and founded 20 years ago this year. Making bespoke hand-sewn shoes, leather commissions, teaching traditional shoemaking and leather craft, and also selling shoemaking tools and supplies, as well as being part of the Queen Elizabeth Scholarship Trust. Carreducker has a pair of shoes in the Design Museum in London in the permanent exhibition. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah.
Got a film even.
Oh, we can go over that.
We can.
You've also got a social media presence showcasing your work and skills with over 12,000 followers on Instagram and 10,000 subscribers on YouTube.
And $1 million for $1.5 million for one of our films.
Really?
Wow.
Is that on
YouTube?
On YouTube?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Well, we had 10 million on one.
We've got 1 million on
freak.
we've got 1 million on the. You can tell that story later. We've got 1 million on the Design Museum film, which is on YouTube,
Right.
and
Okay.
we've got it on twice somehow. But one's
Yeah,
one's
just,
a million.
just put it on
one's
again if
7.
there's another 1 million views in it.
No,
It's not
one's got a
problem.
soundtrack and one's silent.
Yeah.
Right. Perfect.
Like
We'll
a
come to
silent
that. We'll
movie.
come to that. But yeah, just a little brief overview of each of you. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come to you first, Dan.
Okay.
And
I'm ready.
let's have a little bit of a backstory to you. Obviously, your company is creative digital media, making content for other companies. Let us know how you got into that then.
How I got into it. Do you want to go all the way back to school?
If you go sort of tail end of school, coming out of school, what avenue did you go down, and give us a sort of a roundup to get to where you are
Okay.
as of today?
Well, I was going to be a plumber initially.
Legend, mate, legend.
And then I didn't realise until I looked into it, it was mainly sort of dealing with toilets, so I sacked that off.
Yeah, did you not get the memo on a plumber then?
I thought they just made bespoke bathrooms and it was all just like tiling and really fancy like showers.
That's what everyone thinks when they start, and then when the real work comes, they go, "It's not for us."
Now, in reality, I always wanted to do a trade, and story of my life up until that point, I just left everything too late, sort of dead lazy, and didn't get apprenticeship. It was when that plumbing boom came. I don't know what year it was.
Is this when everyone was saying, become a plumber and you can earn 120 grand a year?
Exactly. My old man was like, you want to get into that?
Yeah.
And I left school having no clue what to do. I was like middle of the road academic, I liked science and stuff. But anyway, it wasn't meant to be. And I thought I'll try again next year. And my now wife's auntie, who worked in the art college, said, why don't you apply for like a photography course? And I was always interested in photography, always taking pictures. And I thought I'll give it a go. I didn't even know photography was a career. I thought paparazzi was like a professional photographer. Had no idea.
Yeah.
And I just messed around with my parents' film cameras and stuff. And so I did that, fell in love. A couple of years at college, 3 years at university. I studied fine art photography. Worked in studios. I set up my own studio in 2012, portrait studio.
Right.
Ran that for 12 years. And I would always get inquiries for commercial work, and I always found that really interesting. It wasn't like a huge focus of mine. And then I kind of just grew that side of the business really. And how I got into social media marketing and content was we would do all these shoots for our clients, which were relatively small clients at the time. But we were doing shoots for, I don't know, let's say a production was like $4,000 or whatever, which was quite a few years ago, which was huge for us, back in the day. And these were like small operators, so it was a lot of their budget.
So what sort of client would this have been?
This particular example, this was like, I don't know how you describe it really. It's like a coaching, treatment, spa type thing. It was very bespoke, but it was basically a load of ladies who used to work in Tesco's that decided they want to set up their own business, and they created this amazing place where they did like hot stones massage and life coaching. It was really
while
cool.
Still working at Tesco.
I think some of them were, and it was just a little place that you could go and get a sports massage. It wasn't seedy or anything like that before you ask. Essentially, so we produced all this content for them, and they basically posted, so we delivered it on Dropbox or whatever, and they posted 30 images in one post with no caption.
No.
And I was just like, what have you done? You've wasted so much content, so much amount of stuff, and I sort I never really cared what people did with the images.
You gave them that content. That's yours. You can do what you like.
Exactly. If I saw it in the local newsletter, I'd be chuffed. The local magazine. And so I thought, we were doing our own marketing. We'd done research, and we were borderline all right marketers at the time for social media. And I thought we could do this for you. It sort of clicked. We could offer like a dual service of social media marketing and shoot the content, and the client can be completely hands off. And so we continued doing that for a amount of time, and then Dissident was born probably a couple of years later when we started to get more clients, more teams.
So when you say we, there was you at this point, and
my wife Kate became a partner in the business, and then as we got more clients, we still kept the portrait studio. So actually hired my first member of staff, Molly, who's still with us, who's amazing. But I hired her pretty much straight out of college to shoot family portraits because I kind of just didn't want to do it anymore. And I was too busy with the other stuff.
Was this the typical, when you go down your high street and you've got the mother, the father, the two kids and the dog, and with the white background, in like a basket. And was it that? It
was like a dissident version of that.
Right,
It was because I'd worked in portrait studios before, and they were really creative. These were all like students who studied fashion and like really creative stuff.
So put a little bit of an edge on it.
But they got stuck doing family portraits. So they were kind of like, okay, well, let's make these as cool as physically possible. So it was like family portraiture, but a little bit more rock and roll is the best way to describe what we did.
It's what people actually want on their walls. It's a bit of rock and roll.
Yeah, a little bit more.
It's like weddings. I used to do a little bit of photography years and years ago. I did car photography. But a mate of mine had a wedding, and obviously got their proper photographers in to cover the wedding. And I was, just took my camera and just got the shots of, like the bride's dad and the best man.
All the
at
candidates.
The bar. All the proper shots. And they were the best ones because they summed up that time, that moment in time, as opposed to the stage ones of picking the wife up and all this sort of
more,
stuff.
More documentary. So I mean, we did wedding photography in similar kind of vein. Yeah, it was like documentary, fly on the wall type stuff, and a little bit more rock and roll. But yeah, so anyway, we launched Dissident about 3 years ago, which is purely social media marketing and content creation, so photography, video production, and design. Yeah, and that's an abridged version.
That's the timeline. So when so you've come from university. So that point there, after leaving university, was you like, right, I've got to set a company up of my own? And
no, I got sacked from a studio job. So that was the pivotal moment. Was, basically, I'd worked in a couple of pretty cool studios.
So out of university, couple of jobs in with these studios, and then I was working as a studio manager. What did you get sacked for? Do we
no. It's actually a pretty cool story, and it's kind of the story of my life. I've got a foul mouth,
right?
And I find it very difficult to not speak my mind, even though a lot of the time the stuff that I'm saying, if taken out of context, could actually be quite hurtful.
Right. Okay.
I just if I'm throwing insults, I do it in a sort of
shit sandwich.
I do it in like a comically over the top way, and
to cover up what you actually mean.
Yeah. So basically, if someone does something wrong, I'll sort of, anyway, I've just got a foul mouth.
Yeah.
So I was hired. I was a photographer, and then I became what was called studio manager or creative director. So I ran a team of photographers and editors and stuff like that. And essentially, the boss was a nightmare, and his missus was a nightmare. Very difficult to work with, and kind of it wasn't a nice environment for me and my team. And so I would, there'd be all these issues, and I would try and look after my team as much as possible. And basically, long story short, I was bad mouthing him,
right.
But bad mouthing them in general to my team, and they were all coming to me with these issues. I'm like, yeah, no, he's a nightmare. And then someone was recording it.
Oh no!
So someone was trying to basically stitch me up.
Yeah.
Still to this day, I have no idea who. And I was really hurt because they were
you thought they were
my
friends?
guys.
Yeah.
They were my guys. Yeah, and I hired most of those guys.
Right.
So next day I got the sack. But a big learning point for me was try not to be a dick.
And just make sure you don't get recorded when you're slagging people
up. To swear on here? Yeah. Okay, cool. So there was a situation where. I didn't want to do family portraiture anyway. Like I didn't want to be there, and I didn't like working for them, and I'd hated my career up until that point. So I tried looking for other jobs. There was nothing sort of other than like in the big cities that was sort of along the lines of what I wanted to do and the pay that I wanted to get. So I decided to just set up. I thought, well, I'll tell you what, I'll just give it a go on my own, but I'll play by my own rules, and I'll do it in a different way, and I'll be a little bit more creative. And the stuff that I didn't like about the studios that I was working in, I won't do, and I'll just kind of do my own thing. And I did it, and it was successful.
And did it work straight away, having that little sort of different take on it?
Yeah, I think so. I think there was the studios that I worked at, to be fair, were pretty cool. It was just there was elements. There was like some of their sales tactics and stuff were a bit shady, and I kind of didn't want to do that. The actual imagery and stuff didn't really change a great deal, except I just had a little bit more creative freedom to try new stuff and fail. And try.
That's the best way of finding out if something works, isn't it? If something fails, that's completely scrapped off. You go with the next idea.
It's the ultimate rule in marketing is test. Yeah, just test stuff. It worked. It worked really well. I built up quite a good network, sort of ahead of time, and I actually did one of the things that kept that first year is really difficult in business, where especially if you don't have anything to fall back on. I just got a house, we got married, and all this kind of thing. And
no pressure then, Dan.
Yeah, I got no income. So then
it had to work. Literally had to work.
Was your wife still working then?
Yeah.
For doing the same with you?
No,
right,
no.
Okay.
So Kate came into the business quite late. She studied complementary therapy, so like reflexology and aromatherapy. Right. So you can imagine how much that pays.
Yeah.
And she was working at a spa.
Not Tesco spa with the ladies.
They're ahead of their time though, those ladies.
Yeah.
So she was doing all that kind of stuff, and so I managed to for the first year. I did a free. I don't usually recommend doing free stuff for people, especially as a creator. But I wanted to build up my portfolio because I couldn't take my portfolio with me when I left the job.
Right.
It's like a legal requirement that you have to sign away all of the work that you've done. So I did a free shoot for a local spa who were doing like a bit of a collaboration with a really weird concept. It's sports car or like sort of high-end car timeshare. Really
I've
weird.
heard of this.
Yeah.
I know a guy that's not heavily into it, but I know, and it's weird. You basically buying into a £100,000 Ferrari.
Yeah, and you get to use it X amount of times a year.
You get to use it on a Tuesday
It's like
morning.
owning the leg of a racehorse.
Yeah, exactly.
But slightly more productive.
Yeah.
I can talk
And
about
with the running costs with it as well.
So so I did a shoot with those guys, got to introduce them, and just by happenstance, if that's a word, I'm not sure. I've never used that word before.
Love it. That we've got to put it everywhere now.
Those guys needed a photographer for an event they were doing, which was like a track day type thing.
Yeah.
And I did that for like 2 years, and it was really good for the time, really good money, and it kept me afloat for the first couple of years, and had this studio, and it allowed me to sort of ease my way into marketing because I'd never had to do that before, market the studio and stuff, and kind of went from there really, and it was relatively successful.
So is that at the point where Dissident sort of become a thing?
Yeah, Dissident, because the only thing that the reason why Dissident is called that is because all of my like businesses up until that point, or like the sub brands, were like something with my name in. Daniel Moore Photography, like really like
cliche,
easy.
Because I was like shit, I've got to make a business it now because I have no money. So I was just like, quick website, Daniel Moore Photography, that'll do, quick. And when we branched out into commercial work, I didn't like having the same stuff on the same website. So I just split the brand. So I had Daniel Moore Photography, and then again, DM Commercial, which you can imagine is my initials plus the word commercial. So we basically ran the agency as DM Commercial for about 2 years. And then I was like, I need to kind of separate myself from the business because it's not me all the time. I'm not the expert in most of the stuff that we do. So then we rebranded as Dissident 3 years ago. So we've kind of been running as an agency for about 4 or 5 years, something like that. But then Dissident came about 3 years ago.
So what you want to do with Dissident is, and I touched on it at the start, you want to make content, but that little bit edgy for companies. Mm-hmm. So obviously I've done work with you, with Tide, Thomas Dudley, and you do work with Fischer not predominantly. Mm-hmm. That's probably one of the ones that the people that are listening are going to know is Tide and Fischer, and a few others. I don't know if you want to mention who they are.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to shout them out, but we work with sort of so Tide and Thomas Dudley and Fischer, are like what most traders would know, but then we work with like some distributors, so like builders merchants and things like big ones, and then sort of technical manufacturers. So I mean, literally the first construction-based thing that we did work with was a bracket that held facade systems to a wall, essentially.
And you've got to make that look cool and sexy.
And that was the first time we got handed these brackets, and I was like, I was hoping this would be cooler. It was literally just a right angle piece of metal.
It's an owl bracket.
And I was like, okay, we can. And it's just like scratch your head, have a think about how we could do this. And so we shot it. It was cool. If I looked at it now, I probably wouldn't like it. But it was nothing else on the market looked like the way that we'd shot this. And typically, like now, we still work with those kinds of businesses, but most people probably wouldn't know unless you're in like engineering and stuff. You wouldn't necessarily. But we work with like IG Masonry, SFS. But we've worked with like before construction, like NatWest, and we've done work with like beverage companies. But our main focus really is construction.
So you want to try and bring that edgy coolness to it. And a lot of companies now are going away from, just the typical product there, slow camera shot round it, all that sort of stuff. You're doing very much what Jack and G and the Trade Legends lot do with the Unilight stuff. It is, your sharp cuts and your glitchiness and all that sort of stuff. But brands are wanting that now, aren't they? They don't want the boring, mundane shots because it's that saturated. You want something that's going to grab you instantly.
Absolutely.
I uploaded your... went onto your website earlier on, straight away, as soon as you click on your website, it's just that barrage of short, quick edits, and straight away you're in.
Yeah.
And that's the whole sort of ethos, I suppose, behind Dissident.
And to some extent, I mean, we've definitely got like Dissident's got like a look. We've got like I think you can usually tell when it's dissident content because we've got a particular kind of look. It's very gritty, very dark, grim.
I'm getting essence of Blade Runner here.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so it's kind of it's dark and moody and contrasty and gritty and stuff like that. And accidentally, that works really well with construction. So we were doing that with everything. But yeah, accidentally it works really well in construction. We can do. We've got healthcare clients, which that doesn't work with at all. But we still managed to put an edge on it. But for the most part, it's Dissident is about creating content and messaging, because we're a marketing agency as well, that separates our clients from their competitors, which is what all marketers want to do. But our big thing is like repositioning what could be considered to be quite a boring product or brand into something that's quite special and is interesting and that gets your attention. And so our sort of big thing, our sort of like tagline isn't really the right term. It's like we make screws sexy. That's kind of like the thing that we've always said, because we would just get brackets, we make them look cool. I think if you gave me something that was already really interesting, it'd
be hard work.
I'd freak out. Yeah, I'm like, no, give me a table leg.
But it's like Al's always said about Unilight as a company. How it's a light. It's just a light. How do you make a light look cool and put something to it? And we were speaking off camera when you got here. You said the way that Jack and G and that shoots the stuff and puts the content out. You're like, that's what you're. It's
epic.
Yeah, it's.
But you follow it all the way through because the packaging's the same. It's sort of the building, sort of the. It's how it's brand identity.
It is. And I remember Al saying to me, they did one of the lights. I can't remember what it might have been. My light, the SLR 1750. He wanted the box in for the light to be like an iPhone box. You open it and it just slides out. It's just a light.
Yeah.
But at the moment someone gets that delivered to their door and they open it like that, straight away they're like, this is cool.
Yeah, man.
And the marketing has got to suit that product. So, what you're doing along that line is the same. But you saying you find a cool product. What would you class a cool product to be?
Oh, an easy one would be to
shoes, for example.
Shoes are very cool. But I don't think we've ever worked with a shoe company, so I'll give you a card.
Fancy that.
An easy one is like beer, a beverage company.
Okay, cool.
The thing, so we're also quite lazy at Dissident. So what's great about the construction industry and quite a lot of the products that we work with and do is we can guarantee you as soon as we press the shutter, no one's ever done anything like that before.
Yeah.
Unilight are a massive exception because they create incredible stuff. But most of our clients' competitors, when you look at their stuff, it's nothing like what we're producing for our clients. So that's a tick, because we want to separate them. But if you gave me, and we have worked with beverage companies, to be fair, and they've been very specific because they've been on a very specific niche or something like that that's allowed us to be quite different. But let's say Stella came to us, we could probably come up with some like really cool concepts for it, but I guarantee you they've been done before.
Yeah.
We'd be able to do it, but it would be a lot more difficult than the construction industry, which is typically been slower to take up like digital marketing and more kind of creative ways of branding products because they've not had to for ages. So that's it kind of makes our life a little bit easier with the construction industry because when we started working in it, we were working with a sheet metal manufacturing company. You look at all their competitors, and they're not even on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But isn't that also because there's a lot more competition now that we're in a global environment and consumers can see what construction companies are using because of all the TV programs that are showing the behind the scenes stuff. So they have to be more competitive. So they have to be sexy because we as consumers can see what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, we're now getting that background of it, aren't we?
Yeah, and a lot of that construction stuff is coming into sort of residential.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot more crossover.
Yes, and also I think as soon as one brand innovates, the other brands are like, well, we've got to do that.
Yeah.
We've got to do that as well. So, when we start working with a particular, let's say it's a particular sector that typically doesn't have budgets and the need for the stuff that we create, and you see a year later, like one of their competitors does like emulation content of the stuff that we're producing because we've got to catch up.
Yeah.
So that's fun. That's fun to see.
So what about just touching it? Obviously, jumping the gun a little bit with your products, your shoes. Do you sell them direct from yourselves, or yours? They're more. So how do you market yours?
Stealth marketing, I think, is probably the description.
That's a good description,
Right.
Isn't it? So a lot of it is word of mouth. Most of our customers, because it's a high-end cost product, so they will do lots of research. They will go and talk to other bespoke companies. We get lots of phone calls, don't we? From
And the other thing is, all of our shoes are unique. So it's a commission-based system. So we don't have products that you can come in and buy off the shelf. So every pair is different and every customer is different. So every experience is different.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to.
So you can't really market that thing.
we can
you can market the process.
We do that a lot.
But the end product is, like you say, is bespoke to that person.
Yeah.
But it's more about giving them tasters, little flavours of this is a new pair we've just made, and it's sort of so we have a portfolio ultimately across our Instagram feed, and we have a gallery on our website, so prospective customers can look through and go, well, I like that, and then they come in for a consultation, and then we fine tune what their taste is. But in terms of marketing, it's a lot of word of mouth, and it's a lot of the consumer doing research and phoning around and talking to lots of other
because it's
bespoke makers.
It's like the product. It's like Ferrari. They don't advertise, but people go to them and they'll have bespoke colour and trim, and so I suppose you're that sort of side of it where they've done the research on you. We know roughly where we're at. We'll sit down. We'll have the conversation.
They need to know that they like us and trust us.
Yeah.
Which is why they do a lot of walking around and talking to other makers, because a little bit like you were saying in your list of 6 rules. 6 rules?
I honestly don't know.
There might be 7.
We wrote those a couple of
7
years
rules.
ago.
It's like the 7 deadly sins. The 7
Yes.
rules.
Yeah.
So I think one of them was about we're kind of normal people, but we're very professional, and so
we're informal but not sloppy. We talk like normal people, but we're professional.
That's the one.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we very
Thanks,
much
Mark.
share that as well. So we're very down to earth.
Yeah.
We're warm and friendly and welcoming when people come in, but we don't roll out red carpets and, lick boots. And so we love our clients, but they come to us because they kind of like us and trust us to make something that they will like.
So you don't really need to market it. It markets itself.
It's very niche.
Yeah.
It's very, 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 very niche.
It is.
How niche is it?
Very.
Very niche.
Yeah, I mean, if we make 50 pairs a year, that'll give you an idea.
Wow.
It's very niche.
So that would be massively interesting. You've probably, just in that conversation, in your head, you're probably going, I know exactly how I'd pitch that or spin that.
Yeah, I think the way that we work a lot of the time, so that there'll be certain things where we'll look at it visually first. So we'll think, okay, me being a sort of videographer and photographer, a lot of the times I think about the visuals, but the brand sort of marketer in me is thinking, okay, what makes these unique? What makes them different? Like, what are the I guess the key selling points, and how do they differ from other things in the market? And I go through all of the questions in my head of like, what are the objections from the audience and all those kinds of things. And then I try to figure out a way of charging a lot of money to create content on it, essentially. So I think 4-day
Which is
production.
where we fall down.
Yeah.
That's why it's a Kickstarter.
But no, yeah, it's so I think a lot of the time, because we have got a look, a lot of our stuff it has got a look to it, but a lot of the content that we create and the marketing that we produce, it really comes from those kinds of things, those kinds of situations of just like, because dissident, the word dissident, I won't do it justice, but it's about going against the regime, being a bit different. It's not quite. It's kind of rebellious. So a lot of people think we're talking about ourselves when by the name. We're actually always talking about our clients. Like, our clients are the dissidents. They're the ones that are going against the regime and doing something left field that's kind of cool, and we want to be able to be a part of that. And so it's finding the dissident stuff in what our clients do. and then letting and communicating that, essentially. That's the premise of why Dissident exists. But it could look a particular way, so that could be if it's quite a soft brand, for instance, and the messaging is quite soft, and they're looking for an audience who is a little bit, they're not going to be looking for like gritty, like backlit, everything's got smoke and stuff like that in it. And it's like
explosions going off.
Yeah,
it's just clogs, mate.
Yeah, it looks really well. That works really well in particular industries. But yeah, we have got more of a range than that. But it's very much about just finding those bits that make a particular product or a particular brand like special, and then letting the audience know in a creative way that's perhaps not been done before or certainly been done in that sector. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So with the brands you've got coming up, working with them, you got an exciting time coming. Yeah. At the moment, we just touched on it off camera a little bit, so that's quite.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I'm okay to say it because they said, yeah, we're ready to go ahead. But I got a phone call with Big Wipes the other day, and
again, massively construction orientated. Yeah. Most people know about.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I wasn't sure what a Big Wipe was.
Yeah. Again, it's just basically. I'm doing Big Wipes a disservice here. It's just a wipe. But how would you make just a hand wipe cool, sexy, and appealing? And to be honest, Big Wipe, we've had Big Wipes on the show, very early doors. And they'll openly say, you're just wiping your hands, we're just cleaning your hands. So their whole thing around it, they built up a brand, and it's quite a synonymous looking brand at trade shows. But it's just been a bit stagnant, hasn't it? So I assume that's why they've come to you to...
Well, I think it goes back
to some zhuzh.
It's the repositioning thing. What they're doing, I think they're doing particularly well. I think what they're finding, and I wasn't aware of this, is they've got competition. Yeah. So as soon as you get competition, that sort of requires you to sort of step up. All brands have got competition, but as soon as they get a bit too close, like, oh, okay, let's start thinking about what we can do, and that. They've always really when you go to the trade shows, their demonstrations are amazing. Yeah. It's not. There's kind of like teleshopping sort of things. Where I
always say it's like a market. When you go to a market, you've got the old boys selling some machine that cuts your potato, and he's got the patter. Yeah. He's got all this, and he's just got a massive crowd around him. They've got that at the trade shows. They put silicone and crap all over their hands, and then this is the wipe for this, and the sales patter is to the T. It's brilliant.
And they are so famous in the industry for this. Like when we go to the trade shows, we love going to watch it. And my wife is obsessed with Big Wipes. She's always said, "Can we get them as a client? Can we get them as a client? It'd be so cool to do something with them."
But that's just brand awareness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Massive brand. They're just a wipe. They're going to come for me for that. It's just a wipe. Yeah. But it's branding it right and getting it out there and getting people in the social media scene to work with them to push it to make that product cool.
Ladies and gents, just a quick one to say a huge thank you to our new headline sponsor, CT1, the best sealants on the market, voted for by the British public. Not only that, it's made in Britain as well. So go and support a product and a brand that is made in the UK. But I just want to say to you, they've got a brand new product out, which is the BT1. It's a combination sealant and adhesive like the popular CT1, but it's perfect for keeping a hygienic environment. And it's designed to completely stop the growth of bacteria, microbes, and fungus. And not only that, this stuff is strong. Now, it's going to be available at Travis Perkins, Wickes, Jewson's, and pretty much everywhere else, so there's no excuse not to go and give it a go. So we're really happy to be partnering with CT1.
Right then, Deborah and James.
I don't really know how we can follow that.
Let's get stuck into exactly what you do. So we've got 20 years you two have been set up. So you're not husband and wife. Initially, I thought you wasn't, having a bit of a dive on the Instagram and whatnot. Then when you was here, I thought, oh, maybe they are. So that's why I thought I'd clarify it before we started. So you're not husband and wife, but you've worked together.
Because he was checking whether I had lipstick on my teeth. Yeah. I know, that's a very husband and wife thing to do. It's a good business partner thing to do as well.
At least you can lean on him, you can trust him.
Yeah.
My missus always go, have I got makeup on my face? And I go, no, I don't know if you have or you haven't. And then it's like, it's a 50, yeah, no, I don't know. But so you've been working together for 20 years this year.
We have.
Obviously, you've both got into the, what would you class it as? Shoemaking. What's the title?
We're cordwainers.
Cordwainers.
Cordwainers is our official title.
So what's that entail?
In English.
Yeah.
Shoemakers,
Go
I
on,
think.
Yeah.
Well, it's hand-sewn shoemakers.
Right, and that's the official
Yeah.
terminology for
Yeah.
it.
Or bespoke shoemakers,
Bespoke shoemakers, yeah.
which implies that they're handmade.
Yeah.
But the key thing is that they are specific to a customer. So the starting point is measuring someone's feet, and from there,
Tailoring it to that specific foot.
yeah.
So before we get into that, where did it all start? I assume, should never assume, I assume your paths took the same sort of route. Massively not.
Really, no.
Brilliant. Right, she'll literally throw the line out and let you go then.
Do you want to go first?
Okay,
God.
so
So go on, James. Let's hear where it started.
I went to university and in Manchester and did not really like my degree. I finished my degree because I felt obliged to from my mum and dad.
What was this in?
Psychology.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. So I finished my degree and I thought I'll have a bit of time off, and I got into having time off and not doing anything. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no clue, actually. I didn't want to do psychology, but I had no idea of what my career would be. And I kind of got into a few bad habits in Manchester.
Yeah.
Sex and drugs and rock and roll.
Brilliant.
And
Cool.
I thought I was getting...
They're not bad habits. Well, some people frown upon them, but yeah.
And I kind of felt I needed to get away. So I decided to go and live... Well, initially I wanted to go and live in Argentina and for an adventure. I don't know why, but that was the country that was in my mind. And I said...
Was that a case of spinning the globe and going there?
Kind of. I'd always had a kind of fascination with that. I don't know why.
Right, okay.
So I said to my mum, I'm going to go and live in Argentina. And she said, ooh, that's a long way away, isn't it? And I said, well, yeah, it is a long way. And she said, why don't you... She's very canny, my mum. She said, why don't you go to Spain first, learn Spanish, and then go to Argentina?
That
I
makes
said,
sense.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I'll do
That could be your in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went to live in Barcelona. So
Took your mum's advice?
Yeah, I took my mum's advice. I did a TEFL course first, a month long. It's just teaching English as a foreign language.
Okay.
So that I could work there. So I went,
Again, just an in.
yeah,
I'll get in there.
because I had to.
Just
The
enough effort.
shortest
Not too
course I
much.
could find.
Yeah.
So I went to Barcelona and loved it, and sort of one thing led to another, and I actually stayed there for 8 years. And in all of that time, I didn't want to be a teacher, but I was a teacher. But I enjoyed the teaching enough to be able to do it and make a living. I had a lovely life.
Yeah.
But while I was teaching English, I was doing a business English class with this woman, and we were doing a drill, and the drill was, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live?
Right.
And if you could do any job you could, what would you do? And then I reversed it, and she was asking me the questions, and she said, if you could do any job in the world, what would you do? And just off the top of my head, I said, I'd be a shoemaker. Not really meaning it, it just was the first thing that came into my head. And she said, oh, my dad's a shoemaker. He makes shoes down in the old quarter, and he's part of the Guild of Shoemakers of Barcelona, and they have a little school, and he teaches the class, and are you interested? I can bring in all the information. I said, yeah, of course, yeah, that's great. And so the next week she brought it all in, and I did 2 classes, 2 evening classes. I did the shoemaking class and the pattern making class. And on the courses, I met this guy who was a shoemaker with his dad. They had a little repair shop and bespoke making business. And in my spare time, I went to that because I had a lot of spare time as a teacher.
Right.
I didn't.
So the books were marked.
I didn't work very hard, and I had the sun was shining, and it was a nice place to be. So I had a lot of time, and I made about 15 pairs of shoes.
Right.
And I thought, yeah, this is something I really like. I'd never found anything in my life that I loved, that I could see myself doing when I was 50 or whatever.
But just getting into it, you thought, you're enjoying it.
I loved it. And so I decided that I wanted to move back to the UK and that I wanted to be a hand-sewn shoemaker. So I came back and I had a portfolio and I had some of the shoes, and the only company that I knew about was this company called John Lobb, who are probably the most famous bespoke shoemakers in the world. And in those days, that was pre-internet. So in order to find anything out, you had to either look in a book or phone someone or write someone a letter or go.
What sort of, without prying too much, what sort of year was this? I don't want to go too far in.
I came
just to give it
I'm glad you asked, Mark.
Just to give it a bit of a work out where we are.
So that I came back to the.
I'm not going to go in with that one.
I came back to the UK in '98.
Right. Okay.
Beginning of '98.
And you had been there what, 10 years?
So I went in 1990 and came back in '98.
Yeah.
And so my plan A was to go to John Lobb and say, "Will you give me a job? Will you give me an apprenticeship?" And I went there, and they saw me. I just walked into the shop and said what I wanted to do, and they showed the boss. He said, "Okay," and he sat down, and I showed them my portfolio. I showed them some shoes I'd made, and a couple of weeks later, I started an apprenticeship.
Wicked.
Wow.
So I was a full-time apprentice. They sent me to work with one of their master shoemakers called Paul Wilson. And I did, so it was a full-time, 5 days a week apprenticeship. It lasted about 3.5 years.
Right. So just on the strength of going in with what you had learned from your Barcelona time, gone in with them, your shoes, your portfolio, they've took you on the strength of that.
And I was 32 at that age. I was quite old to be doing an apprenticeship.
Right, okay.
I mean, I got £200 a week, which isn't very much in London.
No, not a lot. But you're learning the art, you're learning the craft, aren't you?
Exactly.
And especially to do it with, the top shoemakers,
Yeah.
country or worldwide.
Worldwide, the most famous shoemaker. But I knew it was what I wanted.
Yeah.
And that I was good at it, and I could see myself not getting. I used to get bored of everything. I was one of those kids and young people I'd do something and then I'd get bored and then I'd need to do something else.
And that was just keeping you motivated.
And I was really into it. I liked I'd never really used my hands before. I liked holding the tools. I liked the material. I liked the complexity of it. I liked the fact that there's so many steps. Every step is different, and it was just.
Because isn't there? I've got it written down. Is it? Where are we?
Over
200 individual steps to make a pair of hand-sewn shoes.
And that's just the making part. That's not the pattern making or cutting out the leather or making the uppers. That's just getting the upper and pulling it onto the last. The last is the wooden block.
Wow.
So, and stitching it together.
So there's plenty of processes before getting to that point.
Yeah.
Is it still like hand drawn as well? Like when you design and things, is it like do you like digital designs? Do you even design at all?
We draw on to the last. So because everything is catered to each individual client, it's really important that the proportions of their shoe suit the proportions of their feet.
I've got you.
So much with tailoring, you disguise any quirks and lumpy bits. The same we do with footwear. So we design onto the last so that the proportions of their shoe suit them.
Yeah. But do you have like this is the kind of shoe that I want to make, and these are like options of like a particular
like a
style
template.
or like a pattern or something?
We have
like that?
samples in the workshop. So, and we assume that people have come to us because they've seen the website and the gallery, and they've seen the kind of things.
They're
that
not
we
coming
do.
in blind to you.
We've had a few recently
Right,
who've just
really?
walked in.
Some walk-ins, but not many. And then they look and they say, I really like that shape, that toe shape, but I don't like that bit of that shoe.
Yeah.
And then I like that bit, and then they kind of amalgamate the things they like, and we come up with an idea. Some people are really clear, I want a pair of black Oxfords. And then that's fine, we can do that. And then all they have to choose is a toe shape and a heel height. But most people want to go through a process with you. Part of buying bespoke shoes is an experience that you go through with the shoemaker.
Yeah, it's the whole thing, isn't it?
It's a two-way process. I mean, that's what bespoke means. It's bespoken between the customer and the
It's a
tradesperson.
conversation.
Yeah. And that's part of the pleasure of it for them.
So you got to that point. Is that so? You work for this company now before you two started working. So before we go to your point, let's hear your start then, Deborah. How you got into?
So I grew up on Sark and the Channel Islands. And as a kid, there wasn't much to do but make things. So I did a lot of making with my hands. Nothing of any value, but I really enjoyed it and found it quite relaxing. I went away to school, and then I came to London when I was 17 to do a foundation course at St Martin's School of Art. Back in its heyday when it was super cool to be at St Martin's. I had a really good year.
Yeah.
Bit like James.
Oh, is it one of those years?
Yeah, and then then I worked as a nanny for a year to get a portfolio together to apply to do a degree, and decided I needed to leave London so that I could concentrate on my degree.
Too many distractions.
Too many distractions. So I went to Lancashire. Went to it's now the University of Central Lancashire, but it was Preston Poly.
Right.
And I did a 4-year sandwich degree. So I did a year out in industry. Did fashion design and marketing.
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah. And my year out was working for a PR company that handled Holston Pills, Levi's and Mulberry. Oh. So I got to experience lots of different aspects of PR, and I really enjoyed the luxury aspect of all of those. And my final degree collection was a range of ankle to thigh length boots, and I went to work with Trickers in Northampton, and they basically sponsored producing my boots for me, and I went to do the pattern cutting with them, and I met a bespoke maker there who was making my boots and fell in love with the craft.
So you wasn't making them?
I wasn't making them, no.
You was designing them?
I designed them, and then I did the pattern cutting with the team there. They were amazing, really welcoming. Again, the only way you got to get through the door was to write a letter. Yeah. So I'd written to them and said, please can I come and do my degree collection, will you sponsor me? I had another brilliant company which has sadly now closed that sponsored me with leather. So I got a lot of support from the industry before I'd even got into it. So they were brilliant, produced my degree collection. I thought I was made as a designer. I thought this is it. Yeah. I sold a pair off the back of my degree collection. I was featured in Vogue Homme International and The Independent, and
got some clout
lots
then.
of fashion magazines, and got very overexcited. But I did only sell one pair. Right. And it was to the actor Jay Davidson, who was in the film The Crying Game. And he only did the film so that he could buy the boots.
Really?
Yeah, which was
there
very
you
cute.
Go.
That's cool.
So that was really lovely. But I had lots of bills to pay. Yeah.
One pair of boots won't
and one
pay
pair of boots
for all the
will
bills.
not pay for the bills. And I'd moved back down to London. And so I worked in marketing for 8 years. So I worked in PR, handling everything from working as an account, initially as an account executive, and then working my way up to be an account director, working for a company called Hill & Knowlton, who were one of the biggies, doing Kellogg's.
What, marketing for Kellogg's?
Marketing for Kellogg's.
It's just, this is why I like doing a podcast, because you hear such random things, but they all lead to the end goal. Don't they?
Yeah.
I just find it absolutely fascinating. So you're doing that job. Is the boot thing still in the back of your mind?
So I'm still doing evening classes.
Right.
So James was doing his full-time training. I was doing evening classes in pattern making. I then started to do evening classes in hand-sewn shoemaking, so in the bespoke shoemaking. And the woman who was teaching me was a Queen Elizabeth Scholarship Trust scholar. And she said, if you're interested in doing this seriously, then you ought to apply to them for a scholarship.
And is that just touch on what that actually is then, the Queen Elizabeth Scholarship?
So it was set up to celebrate the Queen Mother's 90th birthday, and it funds excellence in craft in Britain. So
it's quite a prestigious thing to be in.
Yeah, and the interview was, so I got to interview, the interview was a wooden panelled boardroom, 8 men sitting behind this massive wooden table. It was one of the most intimidating things. Having worked in PR and done presentations like throughout my whole career,
you're pretty much used to that.
It was one of the most intimidating things I've had to do.
Do they only offer a certain number a year then?
So back then, yes, they do, and they still do. But it's a much bigger organisation in terms of the amount that it can give now. Right. So it's grown exponentially since then, and also the character of it has changed a lot. So that was very much of that period. I was very lucky. So I was awarded a scholarship, And I went to train with Paul Wilson for 3.5 years.
Right.
And I worked as a consultant at the same time, so I could afford to do it all together. So it paid for my training, but obviously I still had to live.
Yeah.
And I learnt to ride a motorbike so that I could commute from Streatham to Waltham Abbey every day.
So just specifically for that reason, just to get in and out.
Yes, I did it.
So that's how we met.
I was going to. That's what my next question was. So where did your two paths cross?
Training
then?
with Paul Wilson. So I'd been there for about 2 years, I think, before you joined.
I thought you were going to say like a motorbike club.
House Angels.
Yeah, I used to go hitch a lift.
So your two paths have crossed then there, and where did it go from there to where you are now then?
So I finished training before James did, and then I set up my own little workshop literally in my garden shed, which was about 8x4, making shoes and leather accessories for anybody who would have them. And we would meet up occasionally for a drink and a chat, and I would keep saying, it'd be a great idea if we worked together. And James was understandably very resistant.
Why was that then? Was it...
Because he had a very good job.
He had a cushy number.
He had a lovely job.
I did. I loved what I was doing because I was because the way it worked with John Lobb and the other West End shoemakers is you do your apprenticeship and then you go self-employed and you're an outworker. So they don't guarantee the work for you.
Yeah.
But I never ran out of work. So there was always work for me, and I could work as much or as little as I wanted. So I could make half a pair a week, or I could make 2 pairs a week, depending on how I felt and whether I knew.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
How many did you make a week?
2 a week.
Right, so you worked knuckling down.
Yes, I worked hard. No, I did. Right. I worked hard. So I was enjoying that. So when Deborah said we should do it together, I liked the idea of it, but then I thought, And the other thing I felt was a kind of obligation to John Lobb, because they'd invested a lot of money in me, and I felt that I owed them a certain number of years of working for them to repay what they'd invested in me.
So would you class that as an apprenticeship with them?
Yeah,
I was an apprentice. Yeah,
because we get a lot of people on here, and it's quite a big talking point. Is exactly what you've said.
Giving back.
I did my apprenticeship and I gave the next 2 or 3 years to the guy that had trained me up, because that's how...
It's the right thing to do.
Isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Whereas there seems to be a lot, and we've put it out on the socials a little bit recently, and a lot more people now are saying, I've done my time with them, not earning any decent money. I want to go out and earn some proper money. So I do get the two... sides of it, but for me, it's very much like what you did. They've trained you. They've took their time to put you where you are. Pay it back.
I think it would depend on the size of the company as well,
right?
Because they're not a big company. If they were a much bigger company, I think, well, maybe they
wouldn't miss me.
Exactly.
Right. So how many?
They'll get another apprentice.
Yeah. So how many people with the company when you finish your apprenticeship? Total.
About 25 employees.
Right, okay.
And that's including the office staff and they had they had some strange. They had someone who just made shoe bags. That was her job.
Right.
Full time, all the time, just stitching these shoes. I mean, it's a very old-fashioned company.
So you're giving back to your employer who you've done your apprenticeship with, but you're nipping at his heels.
Yeah, she's persistent.
Right, okay.
No. So, I was working on my own. I had a little workshop, listen to the radio, do my work, enjoy it. But I did think to myself, am I going to be happy doing this when I'm 50? And am I going to be physically able to do it 2 pairs a week when I'm 50? Because it's a physical job. I mean, you're sitting down all the time, but it is a lot of it's a physical job, and I couldn't make 2 pairs a week now just because my back wouldn't stand it. And
how long on average would it take to do a complete pair of shoes then?
It was taking me about 20 hours.
Right, okay. Is that from doing your measurements and everything to sitting down?
No,
That's just the making.
That's what I was doing for John Locke. They did all. They saw the customers. They did all the measuring. They made the lasts. They decided on the styles. All I got was a pack.
Yeah.
And a ticket saying what I had to do, and then I did it.
Right, got you. So that's your 20 hours.
Yeah.
In that. Wow. So it's even more then, in essence.
And it's all hand, so it's hand tools. You're using a knife a lot of the time. You're using your whole body because you use your sort of your lap, your chest, your gut.
And you're leaning over a lot,
handy.
which is why it's bad on your back.
So you're manipulating a lot of stuff and getting it.
Because you need to be kind of hands-free, so you have to brace the shoe into your chest and your legs,
right?
So that you can use both hands.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, it's hard work.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, one, can I do it when I'm 50? And two, am I still going to enjoy it as much as I enjoy it now? And I thought, what I might, knowing myself, I thought I'll be bored by the time I'm 50.
Right.
And so starting Carreducker with Deborah was a way of learning new skills, new challenges, running a business. I knew nothing about running a business.
So there was a point where you went, right, okay, let's do it. Let's go at it together.
Yeah, and the other thing was, we did it in a way where we both carried on our original jobs, and did Carreducker,
and that started to evolve.
Yeah, so we invested some money in it, and maybe we're doing this much for Carreducker and this much for our other jobs, and then over a period of years, it went like that, and we both gave up.
And then 20 years ago, this year, you both gave up and went, right, let's
well, no, we started 20 years ago, but we were still doing...
Oh, you were still... Right, okay.
Yeah. So it took maybe 3 or 4 years to give up entirely.
Completely and go on your own.
Yeah. So it was a very sort of organic growth. Yeah.
So then a couple of years into it, have you got a shop, or where do you work from now?
So then I live in southwest London, and James lived in East London. So we needed to find somewhere that was central. So we found a place called Cockpit Arts, which is a setup of workshops and studios in Holborn.
Right.
And then they have another location in Deptford. So it meant that we rented they had to go for interview there because they're an incubation for small craft businesses. Right. So we were interviewed, and then we were offered a space there. So it was a shared space, and we were there for 15 years. And we went from a shared space to having our own space. And the incubation bit is that they give you a lot of business support, so to help you to grow your business, try not to screw up, which we did a few times. Basically to help you grow, because having any premises in central London is expensive.
It's premium, isn't it?
Yeah. So the Holborn and Deptford sites are absolute gems for craftspeople sort of trying to get going. And then when was it we moved out? 2018,
we moved into the private rental sector. We were in a workshop for 4 years, and we decided to look as the lease was coming up for renewal. We decided to look around and see what there was. This was just after the pandemic, and we moved to the Oxo Tower, which is on the South Bank, between the National Theatre and Tate Modern. So we're right on the river.
Wow!
It's a really great location, kind of halfway between where we live, so we can both get there easily. And it's our first workshop where we've got a face to the public. So we've got a great big shop window, and people walk past.
Can they see you working?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
it's really good.
I like that.
Yeah. So it was the site.
Do you get like people just stood outside for ages watching that?
Only if we're working.
So you've had a pair of shoes put into the Design Museum in London.
We have.
How does that come about?
It was just one of those completely random things. This lovely chap phoned up and said, we're reconfiguring the permanent collection, we'd like to invite you to be part of it. You go, yeah, right. Because it's the Design Museum. It's it's putting it in a modern context. Yeah. That's really not done.
Because they were moving, weren't they? They were in.
Yeah,
they moved site, so they had a new building in Kensington.
Right.
on Kensington High Street. I mean, it's prime museum land.
Yeah.
It used to be the Commonwealth building,
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
but they've redesigned it with this amazing
It's an incredible
roof,
building.
construction, amazing roof.
And because it's such a big building, they had room for a permanent collection. Before that, they only had temporary exhibitions.
Right.
So they've got 2 temporary exhibition spaces, and then on the 3rd floor is a permanent exhibition. And we've been in there for 7 years now. So it's the story of how a shoe is made. So we made a really beautiful film, which is on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can watch it.
We'll put all the links in the description.
With a soundtrack. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
go for the one. Which is the best one? The one with the soundtrack?
I like the one with the soundtrack.
Because sometimes a video with no soundtrack can be quite authentic to just pull you in. But if you've got one, check both of them out.
Both are brilliant, yeah.
So that video is running in the museum alongside.
So it's on a little tablet, and then the boots are there. There's a panel of tools. The patterns are there. The lasts are there, and the trees are there. It's amazing.
So how do you think? How do you know how they got hold of you for that?
They must have just gone on. They must have gone onto the internet and had a look at shoemakers in London.
Right.
And
On the subject of standing out, I think we are seen a little bit as mavericks,
Right. Okay.
because we're teaching, and because we really embrace design. We really embrace colour.
Yeah.
And detail. We're not.
Yeah, our designs are a bit more forward thinking than the very traditional shoemakers.
Again, it's similar to what you just taking it out the box slightly. Then.
Yeah, because hand-sewn shoemaking tends to be very traditional.
Right.
Very traditional shoes, leather-soled dress shoes for men in suits.
Yeah.
We can do that, and we do that, but we also do things that we like.
What would you do to? What's your sort of if you put 2 shoes together? Is it if you're in that scene, would you be able to go, that's one of your shoes? Are they quite standout-ish?
They're not. I mean, not in a. So you've got to think about the scale of a bespoke shoe. It's sort of you're talking about a very small surface area, so it doesn't take a lot to make something look a little bit different. So you want to be quite quiet with sort of mixing colours and patterns and textures. And we've had examples where that hasn't happened and it really doesn't look great. And so, it's more about we've moved towards using a lot of vegetable tanned leathers.
Right.
So that's leather that's tanned using organic material like bark
Yeah.
from
bark.
Italy. So it has a way of aging beautifully as you wear it. And it's not the traditional thing that a hand-sewn bespoke shoemaker would work with.
And but they're very subtle differences.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and I think that's probably why the Design Museum came to us, because they looked at our gallery and thought, well, they're into
different.
design.
Yeah.
They're into design, and we are into design.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they came to us. So we thought about it for a couple of seconds and said yes.
but just as a feel good factor, that's brilliant.
It's a
Oh, it's
total
amazing.
highlight,
It's
yeah.
like all my neighbours, like finally people actually know what, my friends finally know what I do for a living,
Right.
because they've been to see it, and then they take their kids. So that all of my friends, their kids have been dragged through the Design Museum. It's like, well, we can't go to the Design Museum unless we see the film.
Yeah.
So it's brilliant just
my
from
daughter's
her.
school went on a school trip to the Design Museum, and she was like, "That's my daddy."
Brilliant. Love it.
Those moments are very rare.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
rare.
Yeah.
Are you wasting time? I think that some of you probably are, and I have a solution for you. Nobody wants to do any type of admin. Now, I have a solution for you, and it is called Tradify. It's a fully automated job scheduling, invoicing, and quoting all in one place. Now, that software is going to save you 12 hours a week, and all by using a simple software solution. Now, you can try it for 2 weeks, absolutely free, no cards needed, and you'll even get support in person from Tradify themselves. Now, when you're done, you can always come back to me and thank me, but just enjoy the extra 12 hours that you're going to gain from just using the software.
We were very early adopters of social media with our blog. We started in 2008.
Really?
Yeah.
Pioneers.
Yeah, we were. And we were, us and a guy in the States, we were the first people to give the information away. Traditionally, shoemaking was very secretive.
Right.
And we know people who'd work in a big workshop, and if there was a technique that someone knew, they'd turn round and hide
keep it
and
to
keep it to themselves.
Yeah.
And so we got quite a lot of criticism from people saying, well, why are you
Sharing the secrets sort of thing.
You're giving away the trade secrets. People need to pay for this. But we thought, no, that's not right. How are you going to encourage people into it unless they've got a taste for what it's actually like? And so for us, it was like a driver to people signing up for our courses, which it did.
You're giving them a little bit of an incentive, a little bit of a sneak peek.
Yeah.
Well, otherwise you've got no idea. You've got no idea of how a shoe is constructed,
Of course.
and you've got no idea of the craft.
Yeah.
So how are you ever going to grow that world? The very niche world of bespoke, unless you give, as you say, give people a taster.
Yeah.
So we started doing our 12 days, so it was an intensive. And then over the years, we've introduced evening classes. And so when you guys come down, we'll give you a little flavour of what our students do.
Is it popular? Is a lot of people taking up the courses?
That was the thing I was going to say. So the move was partly to do with rent increases at our old premises, but it was also the change of dynamic with Brexit and with COVID.
Yeah.
So obviously, James was able to still go into the workshop when we were allowed during lockdown, but it meant we just had a complete fall off of. So our business had been sort of roughly 40-50 bespoke and teaching, which was why we'd moved, because we wanted a bigger
40-50 shoes a year.
40%.
50%.
Right, yeah,
more or less.
So it was quite evenly split. So the premises that we had before, we had a dedicated bespoke room, all plush and lovely for our clients to come into.
Nice.
And we had a dedicated workspace where students would come in and learn. But very quickly that dynamic changed with the global world kind of falling apart around us. And so part of the move was also to kind of consolidate back into a smaller space and to start to rebuild up our teaching.
Right.
So we had been at a point where we were teaching. We used to teach a 2-week course in New York once a year, because one of our first students.
Not Argentina.
Not Argentina. Never quite
Have
managed that
you
one.
ever been there?
No.
Still
not. No, I have to retire first.
That's it.
And then go.
Oh, never mind.
Not long to wait.
He still speaks Spanish.
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I
cool.
speak Spanish.
Oh, you're ready. You're prepped.
Yeah, you're good to
Argentina's.
I'll be great.
Won't know what's hit it.
We'll do a residential or something out there, and then you can go. What was I saying?
New York.
So one of our first students was from Brooklyn.
Right.
One of our first students was from Brooklyn, and she invited us out. She had a workspace. She said, "Come and teach. We'll find you some students." And that became just this lovely thing that we did every May.
Wow.
So one of us would go out for a week, the other one would go out for the second week. It was a busman's holiday. I mean, it was a working holiday. It was brilliant. So we did that. We were doing sort of 3 or 4 intensive 12-day classes, so that would be for 6 or 7 students at a time. And then we were doing, I think, probably 2 evening classes a week at that point. But as I say, cliff fall.
Yeah.
And so we've built back up, but people's habits have changed, their lives have changed, everything's changed.
Everyone's tweaked the way they live their lives a lot now.
I don't think people travel as much.
No. The process of a shoe. So it is. How many shoes would you do a year? Average
50.
Okay, so the process is a week, just over a week.
Yeah, although it's 6 months from ordering to delivery.
Wow.
Which is quick.
That's quick.
That's
Right.
quick in the bespoke world.
Because there's lots of delays. Because I take someone's measures, then we have to make the last, which is the wooden block that you make the shoe on.
So that wooden block is a version of their
their
it's
foot.
an approximation of their foot. Yeah. And that's made by, there's only one large last making company left in Northampton in the UK.
So there's a delay there. Then you have to make the patterns and the uppers from the last. And again, we've got outworkers who do that for us.
Yeah.
Because traditionally, as an apprentice, you'd only learn there's 3 aspects of shoemaking: last making, closing, which is uppers, and then bottom making, which is the shoemaking bit. So we only trained in that last
Right,
stage.
okay.
So we've got outworkers for us who do the closing, so that's another delay depending on how busy they are.
Yeah.
And then when we've got the uppers back, we then have to do fittings. So that can be 1, 2, 3 more. It depends how complex the foot is. And then we can do the shoemaking bit, which is our bit.
Wow.
And then the shoes go back to the last maker for shoe trees to be made. So they're bespoke to the shoes.
You know, the wooden
shoe trees are the
trees that go
Yes,
inside
yeah.
to keep the shape
Yeah.
and to wick away the moisture
Yeah.
from the leather. And
It's just a massively fascinating trade. I'm just going to come straight in. How much is a pair of shoes?
because it's such a high price point, we've recently introduced a 3-tiered pricing. So we've introduced some mechanization into some of the production that we do, because we do a bespoke hand sewn, which is the top level.
Okay.
But we also do what we call bespoke manufactured, where the sole is stitched on with a machine and the
Right.
heel is attached to the machine and the finishing is done on a machine.
But
And-
the main body of the shoe is...
but the fit is the bespoke fit is exactly the same on all
Okay.
of them. So the last making and making sure they fit you is correctly,
Yeah.
but the actual construction, we've done 3 ways of doing it, and so we've got 3 price points, which kind of makes it more accessible to more people.
And it
Because-
also,
sorry, I was going to say some people have to have bespoke shoes if they've
Yeah.
got weird feet or painful feet or something wrong with their feet or
Yeah.
have had an operation or bunions or orthotics of any sort. They can't wear
Yeah.
really anything else. So what they can get on the NHS is horrible and they don't want to wear it. So we would be the next port of call
Right.
for them, and we want to be able to make shoes for them.
Yeah.
But they don't need hand sewn.
But they need something
that
specific.
fits.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
want something that they like and
Yeah.
that they feel comfortable in.
Yeah. So what sort of tiers are we talking?
Okay, let's get down to the nitty gritty. So,
Right, you ready? This is the sound bites.
so we charge separately for the last and the fitting process. So that's a one-off cost on your first pair. Subsequent pairs, you don't pay that again.
Right.
And that's £760. And then from there, the fully hand sewn is 2,890. Then bespoke manufactured can be 1,890 or 1,490, depending on how we make them.
Right.
And that's for a basic leather. If you then go on to an exotic leather, or if you have a pair of boots, there's a bit of an extra on there.
So those prices are quite bang you there. You know, they're a fixed point. But within that, you get the whole everything.
All the
round
choice
it.
you want.
Yeah. And if
in
you
there.
want some special leather from Argentina or whatever,
Yeah, we might have to charge you extra.
yeah,
for that.
that's the.
Or
the
if
cost
you want
going
a
up.
special construction, there are various features that or different ways of stitching that will cost you more. So we can put some extras on if they want something very specific.
But I dare say the people that are coming to you for shoes like that, obviously the people that have got to have them and need them, but the ones that are having them for their shoes, they're doing all right.
I mean, so
The
you know,
clientele.
the classic marketing thing is, you know, identify your target
Yeah,
audience.
yeah.
And they tend to be self-made, confident,
Yeah.
stylish, not showy,
Yeah.
really nice people.
Our customers are lovely.
Yeah,
Really
I
nice
can
people.
imagine. I can imagine they are.
And they're not about the big, you know, the big showy. That's not
They
not who we attract.
It's
They
not
know
like
what they're
buying a
getting.
Ferrari. If you've got
Yeah.
loads of money, you might think, I want a Ferrari and I
Yeah.
want everyone to see that
Yeah.
I've got loads of money.
But it's the understated
Our
ones,
customers
isn't it?
aren't like that.
Yeah.
They don't care what other people think about them, but
Yeah.
they
They
know
know.
that when they put those shoes on,
They feel
They're
a million,
special.
million
It's their
pound.
confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the benefit of having a bespoke pair of shoes? I think I've already guessed this from the point of view of the bespoke fitting. Other than the fact that you just fancy a pair and they look really cool, if I was to think about the logistics of a bespoke handmade shoe, what are you getting as a result?
Yeah.
Apart from the craftsmanship,
Fantastic cost per wear.
is that what it is?
So you're looking at durability, quality of materials, quality of build,
repairability.
repairability,
Yeah,
right.
so sustainability, environmental impact. Maybe 10
I'm
years,
wearing a pair that are 20 years old.
What, your shoes are 20 years old?
Yeah.
which have never been resold.
Do you want to see?
Yeah.
They're looking good as
We'll
well.
pop- we'll
They're
pop them
looking
up.
really good. There we go.
Wow.
Very
Am I
nice.
right handling a
Well,
man's shoes?
Not in the inside. I wouldn't put your
So
finger in there.
that's 20 years old.
Yeah. I mean, they're showing signs of age, but
I
With
wouldn't say so.
nothing replaced on them.
I've not repaired anything on there apart from the top piece of the heel.
So
You see at the back.
that's that bit.
Wow.
Hey, look at the bottom of it, Mark. Is it like some,
I've put a sticker sole on as well, so I didn't have to resole them, which is a massive job. So that's a bit of a cheat.
Which one? Which one are we on? Here? This one?
And I polished them just for you.
Oh, you can see the bottom, like the fixings. They've got metal fixings, and then look at that. Like what would you call them? Studs?
They're just nails.
Tacks.
Nails.
And
Tacks.
the ones in the rubber part are little tacks. Yeah, I mean that's where they go.
Across here?
Yeah, because that's going to be the thing that
That's what the
wears
shoe
out
tree is
first
for.
is the
But that's
upper
20
level.
years.
Yeah,
This,
yeah.
this isn't the first time you've worn them.
No, I wear them a lot. I wear
20
them
years
a
I've worn them
lot.
twice. Yeah.
You can see I wear them a lot.
Yeah. Wow, that's... So
So-
your
so
your
if-
3 or
if
4
I-
grand
if I-
shoe
yeah.
isn't expensive at all.
If I've worn them over 20 years, that's it's actually good value.
Yeah.
And because it's such a classic design, it's not really going out of
Yeah.
fashion. It's
Yeah.
you can keep a pair of shoes like that for 20
yeah.
years and wear them over and over again.
Yeah,
That's what we do try and encourage our, if they're trying to get a little bit super excited about being able to design something in colour, we do try and tone them down a little bit.
Yeah, we've had
because
some
we want,
horror stories with people
Well, no, we've
wanting
got one.
everything, throwing everything at the design,
Yeah.
colours and
Yeah.
textures and pointy.
And at the end of the day, you're dealing with something that's this big.
Yeah. So one of the things we've learned is to say no and then to redirect clients. So when we do that anyway, so if we're not orthopedic shoemakers.
Okay.
So if we do have clients who have very complex feet, we know lots of other shoemakers who are specialists that we can send them to. Equally, with clients where we don't feel we can fulfill what they want with what we
Doesn't
want,
align.
we will
Yeah.
also redirect them.
Yeah.
But that's good that you... I suppose you're at a point now with your business where you can do that. You can...
We've always done it.
Have you?
We don't.
Apart from that.
The thing is, we invest a lot of time in it.
Yeah.
They invest a lot of time in it, and we want everyone to be happy at the end of the process of the experience of having their shoes made. We want them to be really, really happy. So if we think right at the beginning they're not going to be, then we'll say no.
Yeah. What's the handover process like? Because you're
The
spending all that...
unboxing.
You're spending all that money with you. It's an event.
Yeah.
It's like buying a car or it's like buying a tailor-made suit. It's what does a customer of yours get when the phone call? Right, they're ready.
Yes.
What's that process?
So we have custom-sized boxes, which are a beautiful coloured paper on the outside and lined and very solid. It's a very solid box that you keep forever.
Yeah.
They come in shoe bags. We give them a shoe cleaning kit in a bag as well. Anything else? Oh, and shoe care instructions.
And the promise to that's sort of the unboxing is that sort of as you lift the lid, there's that sigh,
Yes.
as the vacuum.
Whoosh.
yeah,
you
the
get-
vacuum, and the dry ice rolls out. Yeah.
Tissue paper goes. You get that little.
Do they come to you or do you send them?
We have sent them. We
I'd
would
rather-
prefer not to.
rather
I
they-
would,
rather
if
see
I,
them.
yeah, I think if I was spending that sort of money, you'd want it's a day out, it's a weekend out.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to pick
Yeah,
And
this
we've seen them so many times
Yeah.
already
Yeah,
that coming to see us is a pleasure.
Oh, I'd begrudge sending them out. Are they ready? DPD driver.
Yeah, but
chucks them
for
over the
customers
fence.
abroad, we have to send.
Of course, yeah.
No.
You'd be gutted if they turn up in like a pair of Crocs, wouldn't you? But
Yeah.
Crocs.
We're not allowed to use the word croc in our workshop.
Yeah, they wouldn't even get through the door.
Or Uggs.
Yeah.
Uggs, yeah, uglies.
Like we don't make women's shoes if we can avoid
Oh, right,
it. So
okay.
And yet we do.
95% of what we make is men's shoes, and occasionally we'll make shoes for women. And we've got nothing against women's shoes. The only thing that we find problematic is as the heel goes higher on a shoe, it becomes inherently more uncomfortable.
Right.
And the expectation of a bespoke shoe is so high, and that the fit is so good, and it's going to be so comfortable that if you have a high heel, it's inevitably going to be slightly disappointing.
You can't make that comfortable.
You can't. No.
Well, we have.
Yeah, we have, but that customer knew that it's not gonna fit like a ballet pump.
Yeah,
it's not gonna be as comfortable as a pair of trainers.
But it is for her.
That's how good you are. You see,
It is.
But Deborah makes those. You see,
that'll be why.
No, that absolutely fascinating. Really interesting. Really enjoyed that. So, what we always do at the end when we spoke to the guests is, what piece of knowledge or what do you want to pass on to people coming into your trade, or if they're thinking of coming into your trade? Same with you, Dan. If what bit of advice would you give someone
if they were coming into my trade of creativity, marketing, social media, that kind of thing? I would say build your network. Your network of people that you know is typically more valuable than your sort of website and assets and things like. When it comes to, obviously those things are important, but when I look back at all of the work that we've achieved, the clients, everything, it's usually come not necessarily from word of mouth, but just having an individual that you can kind of just go, you've got an in there, haven't you? Can you give us an email or an instruction or something like that? And that's been
the networking side of stuff.
Huge for me, and it's just a lot of that's just trying to be a nice person and keep in touch with people.
Yeah.
And I think if you're quite insular in this, certainly in this industry, where one person, I mean, like like Fischer, who's a huge client for us, I happened to bump into the marketing manager who went to my school, and we knew each other from donkey's years ago. We completely lost touch. I had no idea what he did, and one day he just picked up the phone. I work for this company, and we've seen you do cool videos. Like, can you do them for us? I was like, go on then. I had no idea who Fischer were or anything like that.
It's all about, even construction-wise, it's a lot of deals, a lot of jobs are given to plumbers, electricians, carpenters, everything in the pub. Yeah, deals are struck in the pub for my trade. But networking for your.
I would say and if there was a secondary piece of advice, it would be, because I usually say never do free work, never do stuff for for the portfolio. But I would sort of change that, and if you're going to do free work, do it on your terms. Never agree to do something for the clout because it's a big client. But it kind of, in the creative industry in terms of video production, social media, stuff like that, more so for video and stills and stuff, there is an element of like, if I can do something on my terms and it works,
the long game.
Yeah, if it elevates the brand, just going back to that kind of like that initial introduction to that first proper good gig that I got as a solo creator was through doing a little bit of free work just to build my portfolio. It was very much on my terms. It happened to lead to 2 years of work that helped me run the business. So I would, when people say don't do free work, and there's always a bit of a caveat there. I'm like, do it on your terms.
Never do it, however. There's always a however. Yeah, don't do it, however.
Yeah, I think we're way past the thing of if you do this work for free, we'll put it on our socials and you'll get loads of
There's so many people trying that. What about you, Deborah James? What's a bit of advice or
for youngsters coming into
whatever you be? Basically, the floor is yours if you want to plug your wares or advice.
I think trades and crafts are still really hard to get into.
Yeah.
I think I would volunteer. I would do things like D&V, community stuff. Do stuff where you can go and get. There's lots of man sheds and organisations like that where you can go and learn to do stuff. Do stuff with your hands. If you're interested, I wasn't particularly academic. I went to a very academic school. I'm not an academic person. I needed to make things, so I went to art college. And I think if you find yourself in that situation, there's no point pushing water up a hill.
Yeah.
Get out and go and do some making and do it with existing organisations. And if you can go and, shadow somebody for the day, go and do it. Just kind of put yourself out there. Learn on somebody else's time and then give that time back.
Yeah. How about you, James?
I'd say if you get to the point where you want to become a shoemaker and you've decided that that's the craft you want, just put the hours in, be persistent, make mistakes, learn from them. That's how you get better, is by doing it wrong. And don't be embarrassed about getting it wrong. Ask people for help. Find out from other people where you're going wrong, what they would get advice from people who've been in the trade for a long time, and just enjoy it. Be honest, be nice, give back when you're in the position that we're in, and enjoy it as a life.
Perfect. But no, 3 great guests. Really enjoyed having you on.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Really
Thanks
enjoyed
to
that.
Trade Legends.
And hopefully one day James will get back to Argentina. Or get to Argentina.
Yeah, I will do.
Give us a shout when you're there.
Yeah. No, really enjoyed having you on. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Been a
Mark.
Thank
treat.
you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Really appreciate it.